What is going on, YouTube? June here. We're back again. This is the third episode. We're going to be taking a jump into Cloud Island, talking about all the ins and outs, what we got to do. If you haven't checked out my two previous videos in this series, cards, links in the things up top as well as down bottom, so check those out. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Got that June, got the June, got that June, got the June.
So last time we took a look at the most important resource in the game when it comes to Cloud Island, and that is going to be the toolboxes. Of course, you need those toolboxes to upgrade all these buildings. Let's take a look at what's actually going on. Everyone should be familiar with this setup now, but just in case, we'll quickly go over what's happening here. You're going to have your primary residence. You're going to have your homeowner up top. For my account, it's going to be the queen. And then I'm going to have 4 locations underneath, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each of these locations can have a tenant, which is another hero. And you're going to use those heroes to make your homeowner, in my case it's the queen, that much stronger. Cloud Island is to Void 4 what Void 4 was to E5. In other words, it's just another extension of the enabling system, right? We went from 10 star to E3 to E5 to Void 4. This is just the next step in that evolution. We're getting more stats into the system. There are 2 things that are going on in Cloud Island, essentially. The first thing is gather resources, and the second one is use those resources. Pretty simple. The first one we're going to cover across the entirety of this series, how to get them, how to get more of them, and then we're going to talk a little bit about where to spend them, because that's what you do in Cloud Island. You're essentially just coming here to dump off all your resources to make these locations stronger. The reason you'd want to make these locations stronger is the higher you make these levels, the more percentage points you get to buff the hero that is the homeowner. So in this case, I have an E5 Ignis. I've leveled it up to level 9, which means I get access to 8.2% of Ignis's HP as well as 8.2% of her attack. So you can see that the more you level up that building, the stronger my queen's gonna get, right? Very simple mechanic, but that is essentially how your hero is gonna get stronger through this cloud enabling system. As we mentioned in our previous videos, toolboxes are going to be used for all 4 locations, right? So for the field, the marketplace, the table, and the well, 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of those are going to use toolboxes, as well as the other 2 to the right, which is going to be the HP aura as well as the attack aura. Now you can see that I haven't even bothered building it. I actually believe that it's not really worthwhile to upgrade those auras quite yet. Now down the road, of course, we're going to have a lot of toolboxes and we'll have the ability to kind of start upgrading these buildings. But as it currently stands, I don't really think that it's the best use of our toolboxes, because we're limited by the amount of toolboxes that we have available to us on a day-to-day basis. But the point I'm trying to get across is we have a limited amount of toolboxes, and if you spread yourself too thin, you won't really be able to level them up. Now, what are we trying to aim for? In the CLAN videos, we talked about the 2 targets being CLAN 23 and obviously CLAN 25, because that is the end goal, the end game. In this, it's going to be kind of similar. There's going to be 2 checkpoints that you want to aim for. It's going to be level 20 on these buildings on the bottom and level 30 after that, right? Just a natural progression. The thing you have to take into account here is when you're leveling up those locations to level 20, you will be able to get there eventually with the toolboxes and the unique materials. So for instance, this place, I'm going to need wood. Once I get enough wood and enough toolboxes, I can take it all the way up to level 20. Once you hit level 20, you're going to have to upgrade this building up here. It's going to require 5,000 of the fine wood as well as the hard rock. Then it'll give you the ability to go back to where Ignis is here in the field, and then you can get all the way up to level 30. Once you hit level 30 though, I mentioned in the previous video, but you're gonna get bottlenecked by the master toolboxes. We aren't sure how they're gonna roll them out, but I think it's safe to say that they're gonna be paywalled heavily, not accessible to free to play or low spenders for a decent amount of time, probably 6 months, 8 months, a year, and then they'll be accessible maybe through the campaign system like we saw with the star spawns. So keep that in mind, that you are gonna get bottlenecked, but that doesn't change the plan. The plan is to get each one of these buildings to 20 and then to 30. If you take a look here, we can actually see at what point we would stop building it out, and that we know is free to play is going to be level 30 here. We're getting 500,000 attack and 500,000 HP, and for the attack aura we're going to be getting, I believe it's 10,000 or 15,000, something in that range. Yeah, 10,000 attack. 10,000 attack is a decent chunk of attack. That's the equivalent of like a level 100 star spawn, as if you're talking about just flat attack being added to your heroes, which is very good, obviously. But what is the cost of that? Remember that you have to be using toolboxes to upgrade those buildings, right? So if you take a look at just a 2C, an E5 2C that's at a level 9, you'll see that her attack that she's giving is already 15,000. So when you compare the amount of resources you need to invest in the aura system to get even remotely close to a star spawn as far as stats provided, the math doesn't check out, right? We don't have enough toolboxes to level 30 all the buildings in a hurry quite yet. As time goes on, of course, we're probably going to be in a situation where we have enough toolboxes to start investing in these aura systems. But as it stands, the goal should be focus on these first 4 buildings to 30 and then start considering these aura systems. Every single time you upgrade this, you are just giving up toolboxes that you could be using to upgrade these other buildings. The only way currently to get a huge payout of toolboxes is going to be to clear seal lands. So all the factions provide you around 160,000 toolboxes. So that's a great way to farm them initially. But after that, you have to rely on the slow trickling daily smashes through seal land, as well as the stuff we covered in the last video where you're able to min-max a lot of the other PvE through Realms Gate and through the Vortex, the Void Vortex, to get even more. But as far as like one-time payments go, you can do a lot of seal land to get early progress to level up these 4 buildings. But again, the majority of players are going to have to focus on these first 4 buildings. I would stay away from the last 2. If you've already built them, if you've already upgraded them, that's fine. Just moving forward, keep in mind that it's coming at a cost. You're getting far better stats if you're actually going to get them through heroes. Another reason why I'm not too big on the aura system here, as far as using your resources to upgrade them, is that it actually shares a resource with your main home. So think of Cloud Island as putting the finishing touches on your Void 4 heroes, and usually you're going to gravitate towards Transcendent heroes because that is the strongest faction in the game. What's very interesting here is this conversation that I had with Smoo about a week ago, and it was this idea that we were throwing around about expanding early to make a second residence and then utilizing the hero bond system maybe to your advantage. So let me kind of dive into that kind of topic, and it's something that is still pretty fresh in my mind and I haven't put a lot of thought into it because I've been busy dealing with all the other stuff with all the resources. But essentially it comes down to the way the development team has pre-selected what heroes can be tenants, right? Every hero that can be Void 4 can be a householder. But the catch here is not every householder can become a tenant because the development team has chosen which heroes can be in spot 1, spot 2, spot 3, and spot 4. What I found very interesting was, speaking from my perspective on my account, Sword Flash and Queen have great synergy. Not only are they the best 2 Transcendent heroes to build as your first and second, they actually have great synergy in this hero bond system because you create Sword Flash as your homeowner. She's your DPS. You want to put more damage on her. It works perfectly. And then Queen is always the best support for Sword Flash. And she's a Transcendent hero, so she's boosting more of her stats onto the Sword Flash. So when you have 2 Transcendent heroes, one is a host, one is a tenant, that is like the ideal situation you want to create. But you look at slot 1, you look at slot 3, not really that great. The options aren't that good. Don't really want to build an Inosuke. Maybe Onkirimaru has a spot in the meta, but you look at Fiona, she's kind of fallen off, but she's still the more useful one compared to the actual original Jaya. So when you look at these options, you start to think, is there anything else I could do with these other locations? And when you recognize that toolboxes are your limiting resource, that is what's going to dictate how fast you can upgrade these buildings. You start thinking, well, how do I build another building? If I don't want to invest in location 1, 3, or 4, is there better options? And you start thinking, well, I guess I could build other Transcendent heroes. The problem here is every single Transcendent hero has the same pattern. And what I mean by that is slot 2 has a Sword Flash, slot 4 has a Starwing Jara, slot 2 has a Queen, slot 4 has a... You just see the pattern here. It's always spot 2 and spot 4 that have your Transcendent heroes, right? You have to look at non-Transcendent homeowners to see if you can better use these resources. Now, again, I'm not sure if this is the most optimal strategy, but this was this thought experiment that I was running and discussing with Smoo of expanding early or eventually and saving resources to upgrade those locations on the second plot of land to make use of the ones you don't really want to use on your first plot of land. Your first homeowner being Sword Flash, you're most likely not going to need location 1, 3, and 4. That's not to say they're useless, right? But upgrading them, if you aren't aware, comes at a huge cost. Not only toolboxes, but there is no way you can regress what you've put into the system here. I can't just get up and grab these toolboxes and stones back and then go use them in a different location. This is already, it's once done, no way to reverse it, right? So when you understand that there's no way to get your investment out, you want to be a little picky of what you're upgrading. Now, a lot of people who have already just spent all their resources and toolboxes on all the locations, and that's fine because there's nothing you can really do about it, right? But the argument that I'm trying to make is there is possible synergies of expanding into a second location, utilizing some resources to upgrade your first transcendent hero on location 1, or sorry, your residence 1, and then on your second residence, using it for maybe another transcendent hero or quite possibly a non-transcendent hero. And that's what got me super excited when I asked myself that question. Is there another hero that's not transcendent in the meta right now that could take advantage of this opportunity? And when I look through the list of heroes, the only hero that I even classify as remotely close to transcendent is actually Eloise. Eloise is an amazing hero. She is my #1 pick for heroes that you should be building if you already have everything set aside for building your next transcendent hero. This is the hero that is the hope. There's always hope in the Shadow faction, right? When you look at Eloise and the way the tenants line up, it's almost like a perfect storm. If you look at location 1, Ithaqua, another great hero from the Shadow faction that a lot of people have on their accounts just to meme on guild bosses or broken spaces, or to help them with the Void Arc boss. You look at location 2, we already know that we sacrificed location 2 for when we were building the Sword Flash. A lot of transcendent heroes are going to make use of the resources, which are the stones in location 2, so that you're not going to have those resources to upgrade that building. Nothing lost there. We're not building a regular Jara, and for the most part, if you're not trying to do Steel and Shadow, you won't be investing in Augustin. So we can kind of cross that location off. You look at location 3, you have Ticks. A lot of people still have their Tixes. They're not going to want to let go of their one last Tix. Now let's take a look at location 4. Arguably the best dark heroes that we have in the game currently, Carry and Amun-Ra. They get used in cheese comps, they get used in PvP. They're very functional in PvE, providing shields and an ability to control the enemy's actives. Just so happens that if you're a Sword Flash owner and you have an Eloise, you're able to possibly use 2 home locations to better allocate your resources that you get, mainly being those toolboxes, to upgrade 2 locations at the same time while generating value on both heroes. Now, are you going to be sacrificing something down the road? It's very possible. Time will tell which strategy is better. It's something that I've been thinking about, and that's why I'm going to mention it here. Clearly, the transcendent heroes are the best options right now for homeowners. I'm just trying to put the idea out there to start a discussion of whether there's other options that we can explore by using the limited amount of resources we have to capitalize on opportunities such as Eloise. I really do think Eloise has some legs, and she could definitely make a huge run for a homeowner. Of course, you're going to have to invest the stellar shards to make her Void 4, but when you get to this certain part of the game, you have to start reevaluating what you need to get done in the game. And currently, as we saw in my last video, I'm transitioning to a phase in the game where I'm looking for heroes that can outperform what I currently have in Tower of Dreams and Realm's Gate. Those are the last 2 places in PvE that I still have something to gain. The jump I have to make from Vanquisher 6 to Vanquisher 1 is currently too big of a gap for me to clear. I need to get more Demon Bells, possibly, make Delaciums, or I need to wait till I get a bunch of level 30 buildings to make my Sword Flash overpowered to brute force my way through that content. So, naturally, I have to look at other content that's more attainable. And when I look at Eloise and her ability to hold her ground in the tower, as well as perform very well in Realm's Gate, and now I know that those 2 contents are getting me access to more resources to make my heroes even stronger, to really polish my transcendent heroes and possibly increase the viability of Eloise even further. I get super excited. I think it's a good experiment to run, and I'm most likely going to be testing that out. Now, I believe many people are looking at this new Cloud Island expansion and thinking, I gotta build all these crappy heroes, and I think you are totally entitled to that opinion. What I want to put out there is just another perspective. We have been conditioned to just take these 10 stars and toss them into heroes, and that is how we get progress. So we're very used to that system of building a hero, just defeat it, just so I can get a Void Enable on a hero, or just so I can get it to E3, E4, E5, right? It's just about building these food heroes and then tossing them in. I would argue that this is a healthier system only because you can create these functional foods. What do I mean by functional food? If the content requires your hero to be tankier and deal more damage, which often is how content is rolled out, of course it's going to be useful. And in the meantime, you might actually be able to use this food, and that's why I think it's good. It's healthy to look at these heroes as functional food. Now, of course, it's not going to feel the best to build a Gloria or to build a Morax, but looking at it from this perspective of seeing that the food is a lot more functional than it was before, you can use it for other content, and that's when it really shines. If there is a hero like Ignis that gets used periodically just to give control immunity or to heal something or to clear some brand new PvE content, and you keep it on the account, but in the meantime, you're able to use it to boost your Transcendent hero, which is going to be your main hero that you practically use in all the content, I think there's value to that. Does it suck that they chose which heroes we can choose? Of course, but we have to look at the upsides as well as the downsides. I think that's the healthy way of looking at this system. So now that we discussed on length what Sealand does with its food generation and its toolboxes and some of the resources and how important toolboxes was, and now we've kind of discussed what's happening in Cloud Island. It's all about gathering resources and using those resources in Cloud Island to put the finishing touches on these Transcendent heroes and maybe Eloise. Now we can take a look at all the materials as a whole, so then we have more context now about where we got it from and where we're going to spend it, and then we get to see where we can farm more of that, and then we'll get to the overview of everything as a whole, and I'll be able to give us some suggestions there and some insights and some thoughts moving forward. Thank you again for checking out the video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.